1984 was written by George Orwell after World War II and after his wife died. Orwell was a socialist, so he believed that the citizens should be in charge of their own things with little to no government involvement. Since at this time the government was having a lot of power, he wanted to focus on what could happen if the government kept this up. He wanted to emphasize the worst thing that could happen if things continued the way they were going and if people didn't take back their power. Also, many of the things the character Winston experienced was based on Orwell's own experience with the treatments he received to help with his tuberculosis. Now, an overview. Winston, an outer party member, disagrees with the oppression of the party. Deciding to write his actual thoughts in a diary, he condemns himself to death in his opinion. Eventually, he meets two party members at an event held by the party. He thought one of them, an inner party member, was on his side while he thought the other one, an outer party member, was actually with the party. Later on, he finds out the truth about everything since he first started a relationship with an unexpected person. He learns things beyond what he could have ever imagined, and he is faced with many truths about how society really is and just how much power a government can have. It got to the point where the government ignored all of the rights that the citizens were entitled to, and they did what they pleased because they believed that what they were doing was right and everything was only beneficial to them. George Orwell decided to write 1984 as a dystopia. The purpose of dystopian literature is to give the worst case scenarios of an issue to criticize a current event, social norm, or political system, and they show what could go wrong when attempting to have a perfect society. Some examples of other dystopian books are The Hunger Games, Divergent, The Maze Runner, and The Giver. Now, what was Orwell trying to tell us? The central message of 1984 is that totalitarian governments aren't good at all because all they're doing is taking away more and more from their citizens, leaving them with barely any freedom to do anything. With this, Orwell is trying to warn us to not give the power too much to the government, and if we don't want things to get to the point, we need to take back our power. We believe that 1984 is still relevant. Today, so many things are done through electronic devices, and there's already a lot of surveillance. For example, the National Security Agency has been spying through video games to see if they can find any terrorists. They did this without any warning towards companies that own those video games, making this a sort of invasion of privacy. Then there are governments. There are many places in the world where their governments are fairly similar to the totalitarian government of 1984. Some examples of totalitarian governments that are even stated in 1984 were the German Nazis and Russian communists. More examples include Fidel Castro in Cuba and Joseph Stalin in Russia. Currently, the main example could be North Korea, with Kim Jong-un. In North Korea, the government wants to have so much control over its citizens that they even have government-run factories that make clothes for their citizens to wear. Also, controlling the past is seen today. You always hear the side of the party that won, and you don't hear the side of the loser. For example, when we learn about Thanksgiving, we always hear about the happy meal that the Pilgrims and the Native Americans enjoyed, but we don't hear about how the Pilgrims killed so many Native Americans and stole their harvest. Although you may think that you're probably doing everything right in order to reach a perfect society, this book, 1984, can show you how things could go terribly wrong. As citizens of this country, which is supposed to be ours, we have the obligation to protect our own power and to ensure that we don't give the government too much power over us. Right now, there are so many people fighting for freedom, any type of freedom. Freedom of speech, freedom of press, and freedom of expression, or simply to be themselves. Imagine how things would be if we give the government too much power, and we lose even more freedom. I know you probably don't know how bad things could get, but 1984 can show you how things could get in the society and outside of society. Please read 1984. Thank you for your time.